Hello and good evening. Welcome everyone to our special edition of Relationships 101, aka what we're calling the dating edition. I am your host, Pastor Edwin Strickland, and I will be serving tonight as your moderator through this highly anticipated and what I promise will be an informative discussion. Listen, as we begin tonight, I want you to go ahead and help me out with a little social media outreach. What does that mean? That means I need you to tag your friends, especially those of you who are singles who have been asking for the last 18 months for us to do something just for singles. Tonight is your night. Tag all of your friends who are single. Tag all of your fellas who are single. Tell them to get over here right now to Relationships 101. I need you to like the broadcast, give me a heart, give me a thumbs up, hit that care button, do whatever you have to do to let people know you are in the place, okay? Also, what I need you to do is let me know where you are watching from. Go ahead and shout out your city or your state. You can hashtag and then your city or hashtag your state or both if you like. But let us know in the comment section where you are watching from. Also, if you happen to be catching this on YouTube, go ahead and just put a YT in the comment section. And if you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and just type Facebook or the initials FB. I like to know where all of our listeners are watching from and how they interact with the broadcast. Listen, tonight is going to be so good. I promise you. We were just testing the sound about 5 minutes ago. That's all we were trying to do, just test the sound. And we had already got into tonight's conversation. I had to tell my guests, hold on a minute, wait a second, save that for the broadcast. Listen, tonight is going to be the night that you are going to want to use that comment section, because I'm sure one of my guests is going to say something that you agree with. You're going to want to put a thumbs up or go ahead, sis, or yes, sir, brother. And then it's going to be 5 minutes later, they're going to say something you don't agree with. And you're going to have to put your little angry face in there, or you're going to have to put a thumbs down, or whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, we are not here to necessarily change anybody's mind. We are here to have the conversation. And one of the things that I think is so important in today's times is that we're able to simply have conversations as adults about adult things. And so I'm excited that my guests are here with me tonight. Now, I need to pause for just a moment while you're tagging your friends, while you're letting us know where you're watching from, while you are telling everybody to get over here. I'm going to take a small station break. And what I want to do is just shout out our sponsor for tonight's program. Tonight's episode is being brought to you by the Wholeness Path. The Wholeness Path is a transformative 6-month self-development program specifically designed for women. The question you may be asking yourself to know whether the Wholeness Path is for you is, are you searching for a love that fills your heart without fear of it breaking it? Do you find yourself repeating the same dating mistakes time after time? Or maybe because of some past traumas, do you just feel so guarded that you can't let anyone in? If what I've just said resonates with you, then the Wholeness Path is what you've been searching for. This program isn't just a course, it's a journey. It is tailored for women ready to discover beautiful, enduring love. The Wholeness Path is guided by none other than Tenitria Williams. She is a licensed professional counselor. The Wholeness Path draws from her personal victories over heartbreak and childhood pain. Tenitra isn't just teaching theories, she's sharing the effective strategies that helped her find healing and love, and she's ready to help you do the exact same thing. The next cohort is going to begin in June, so it is your opportunity to begin a journey toward healing and toward happiness. Don't let past fears hold you back. It's time to open up your heart to the possibility of love, the kind that lasts and enriches. I have to tell you, spaces are limited. You won't want to miss out on this. To get on the wait list for the next class, all you have to do is go to Facebook and send Tenitria Williams a Facebook message. Take that first step on the Wholeness Path and transform your journey towards love and wholeness. And remember, beautiful love awaits. Reach out today. Your path to wholeness begins now. And we thank her for supporting tonight's broadcast. Listen, on tonight's broadcast, we are going to unpack the multi layers of human connections when it comes to dating. We will specifically explore the unique cultural dynamics of dating relationships in 2024. You've heard the expression, the dating pool has pee in it. We're going to find out tonight who peeing in the pool. You may be surprised. It might be you. And then we're going to dive deep into the aspects that challenge and even frustrate so many singles out here in these dating streets. Again, I am super happy that you've decided to join us. We're setting the table for a candid conversation tonight on what I believe are topics that touch the lives of so many people. Tonight, we are talking about gender expectations in dating. You can see it scrolling on the bottom of your screen. We're going to be talking about, I don't even know if we're going to answer it, but we're going to be talking about who's bringing what to the table. Who should be bringing what to the table? And heck, whose table is it anyway? And so we're going to have some exciting conversation. In our journey tonight, we're going to navigate through the traditional and modern roles that men and women play in dating. We're going to ask some important questions. Are these roles evolving? How do they impact today's relationships? And what expectations are we bringing into our romantic relationships? And is that causing us not to find the love that we seek? Listen, we're going to explore these questions and so many more with insights from two very special guests. Two special guests who I trust their thought process, I trust their reasoning, and I love their differing of opinion as well. It took me a while to bring this to you because I had to find the right people. And I'm telling you tonight, we got the right people. So guys, girls, buckle up, get your popcorn ready, and stay with us as we get ready to explore these narratives. We're going to bust some myths and maybe, just maybe, even change some minds, okay? Listen, it is my pleasure to get started tonight by bringing to the stage two very, very important people. I'm going to bring them to the stage, and then I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Listen, Chris and Sabrina, thank you so much for being here.
Appreciate you, pal.
Listen, Sabrina has been flying all day. We were talking, she ain't even in her home state right now, but she said she was going to do this, and she showed up. So everybody in the comment section, take a moment and just welcome Chris and Sabrina. What I want them to do is to take a moment. We go ladies first, and I want Sabrina to just kind of tell you who she is, you know, what she's about. Both of them got resumes way too long to list. We'd be here all night with all their accomplishments. But I just want them to just tell you a little bit about who they are and what they got going on. Sabrina?
Okay. Thank you, sir. My name is Sabrina Fischer. I am the CEO of Numbers Done Right, where I believe that you can translate any part of your life into a number, including dating, so that you'll be able to figure out whether you are stagnant, growing, or declining. And then you can incorporate the appropriate measures so that you can ensure that you are going to live your best life using numbers. It's a simple technique.
I love it. We're going to talk about some of those numbers and techniques tonight, I'm sure. Chris, my man.
What's going on, Q? Again, I'm Christopher Dade. Again, I don't have the long resume that Miss Sabrina has. I'm just a regular old dude with regular old information and regular old thought processes. So I'm just here to try to dig a little deeper into the psychology of this whole thing, to kind of deal with it from a psychological perspective, social perspective, historical perspective. And that's really who I am. My accolades, you know, again, I own a couple of businesses, but that's really not that important. I'm just here to just dive into this conversation and let's just really get into it.
Listen, I'm excited about it. Again, I appreciate you both of you. I appreciate both of you for being here. I appreciate both of your perspectives. You know, one of the things that people have been asking about is they say, you know, we need to have a conversation from a male perspective, and we need to have a conversation from a female perspective. And I have to tell both of you, I've been trying to find the right people to have this conversation. And listen, if the dating pool is indicative of what I found, we got some work to do. We have some work to do on the male side. We got some work to do on the female side. And so I'm just appreciative of y'all being here. I had in my notes to do this, so let me do this real quick. Those of you that's in the comment section, listen, there's about 66 of you guys right now on this broadcast. I need each of you to tag one more person. We need to get to about 120 people on here tonight so we can have a really nice, robust conversation. Again, the comment section is where you can put your questions or make your comments. Also, if you dare, if you happen to be single, go ahead and put the word single in the comment section. If you're dating someone, go ahead and just put the word dating. You don't have to tell us who it is. And if you are in that third category where it's complicated, go ahead and just put that in there too. Say it's complicated. We know tonight we got some singles, we got some daters, and we got some complicateds. And so if you dare, and I tell people all the time, sometimes you never know who see your profile. You never know who might want to say hello to you. If you single and you ready to mingle, you might want to go ahead and follow them instructions and put that out there. I see him putting them in the comment section. I see him putting them out there. All right, here's my first question, and then we'll get into a little bit of the nuance of all of this. Both of you, and I'm making an assumption because for my listeners, both of you are single. Is that correct? Both of you are single. And so both of you are single. Both of you are attractive individuals. Both of you are, somebody said I'm outside. Both of y'all are outside. Both of y'all are accomplished. And so how do you see culturally how dating has changed, right? You're not old, but you also not young, right?
Right.
Both of you had relationships. Both of you have been in situations that were committed. You're now single. What's your general conversation when you say to someone, if they say, "What is dating like right now?" Mm-hmm. How would either of you describe dating, whether from your personal viewpoint or just what you hear and see?
Mm-hmm. Well, you go, Bree. Go ahead, Bree.
Yeah, okay, go ahead, Bree.
I think dating is interesting right now because if you have an expectation of trying to find your person while you're dating now, it can be a little interesting in your dating selection. If you're flexible in your approach and you just outside because you outside and you want to date whomever, then it does seem to be easier to do that. But aligning your expectations and aligning some of, for me, I'm a believer. So getting that belief system to be similar in the dating pool I've seen has been a little complicating.
Okay.
Complicated.
I think during this time, it is definitely a cultural shift that's happening. It's, they call it a tornado when that cold air hits the hot air, and that's what you get. That's what we are doing. It's a melding of traditional perspectives and are hitting modern perspectives. And now you got this real whirlwind of ideas that are out here, and it's causing a pretty good divide and a lot of confusion that's happening because you got people who are living in a world that really no longer exists. Our parents the world of our parents no longer exists, and so we're transitioning, and now it's making it very difficult for the dating process because we're trying to figure out how to make that next step, that next jump into that next stage. So I think that's where we are, how difficult it has become right now. And it also is about which generation are we talking about? Are we talking about we're in our 20s, we're in our 30s, we're in our 40s, or we're in our 50s? Some conversations we shouldn't even be having at certain places, right? But I think that's where we're at right now is everybody's trying to have the same conversation at the same time. And it's very confusing because we're dealing with two different cultural divides in terms of its history.
That's good. We'll come back and talk about that cultural divide. But both Sabrina and you mentioned something. Sabrina talked about finding someone who shares, and I may be paraphrasing it, but she said your values, your core beliefs. someone who shares similar thinking in terms of where do we want to go. You mentioned, Chris, about this idea of how things have changed, right?
Right.
We're not only have they changed, but what group of people are we talking about? These 20s to 30s, these 30 to 40s, the 40s to 50s, even the 50 to 60s are out there nowadays dating different things.
Well,
And so,
I think, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and so one of the questions is this idea that we've heard it so many times, at least I have from people, is this idea about if I'm dating, what am I bringing to the table, or who's bringing what to the table? And this, I see us to bring us face there. We're gonna get into it. This idea about here's what people are saying. You either got people. It's almost like politics. You got somebody on the left, right, who's saying if you're gonna be with me, you got to provide X, Y, and Z. And then you got somebody else on the right saying if you're gonna be with me, you got to bring X, Y, and Z. And so you have this dynamic of what are you bringing to the table? And it's no longer, I see, just about men saying, here's what I'm bringing to the table. Men have started asking the question to women, which for me, hey, I'm 52. That's different from me. So y'all help me out. But men are starting to say to the women, what are y'all bringing to the table? And I think that's causing some consternation. Questions, comments on that. What am I wrong? What am I seeing?
No, I think, like, first and foremost, we have to kind of get past being offended by certain words.
Okay.
And that piece is very important. Somebody talking about bring to the table, and all of a sudden everybody's in a frenzy because the table conversation is offensive. If we talk about 50-50, all of a sudden we're offended because that's, by the words themselves, without necessarily digging into the why we're even having this conversation. Where is the society at this point that this is even something to even talk about? I think the change has happened, and I think we talked about this before, and I don't want to get too numbery about it, but the reality is, if you're talking about our generation, we were born in the 70s, just the evolution of women in the workforce has made a huge difference in why this conversation has changed. If you remember, maybe like the pre-70s, a woman couldn't even go get a bank account unless their daddy or their husband took them. Now we're at an age where it's way different. Women are in the workforce. You can do the job just as well, do it better than I can, just as much as I can, make just as much money as I can. So the conversation becomes a little different in terms of the fiscal piece. But let me not leave out the other side, because I don't want to get beat upside the head and shoulders. It also is different because women are in the workforce. And the role of the man has changed in the home too. There's a different level of parenting that has to be involved in terms of men. There's a different level of cleaning and cooking. So these things have changed over time. And so when you have these conversations about what you bring to the table, or 50-50, get away from what the word's being offensive and talk about how society has changed and our roles have changed in society. And that's why even the thoughts are coming up.
Now, I have to parenthetically insert this. I know that wording 50-50 debate is not something that Sabrina likes or agrees with. I saw her Facebook post. I thought it was great in terms of setting us up for tonight. So I'm going to give you the floor for a minute and talk about why you don't like that language, why you don't like that conversation, and then kind of tell us why you think it is so prevalent in the dating world now.
So I think the reason why I don't like it is because I'm a numbers person. So to me, when you're saying 50-50, I now have to assign values to things in order to make sure that it is a true 50-50 relationship, so that neither one of us feel any type of way about what we're both bringing to the table. So, for example, my parents have been married 50 something years. So if a guy is coming to me saying, well, I can take out the trash and I can do this, I've seen that all my life. That doesn't have a high value to me. So now I have to start placing value on things to make sure I'm balancing out this 50-50. How much is sex? How much is washing the dishes and all of this stuff? Now we start having a conversation about things that are outside of just the fiscal responsibility, and trying to define what that is and place a value on it. Now, if you want me to go 50-50 on something, you might need to change the the wording of it or something to make it say reciprocation relationship or reciprocal relationship or something, but you are going to have to define it differently than 50-50, because I'm not buying into that. We have to have valid discussions on what that means and what does 50-50 coming to the table actually brings to either one of us. And that's why I don't like the term 50-50, because now we're going to get in the weeds, and then I think it leads to an opportunity for one of us to feel slighted. It's not just about the fiscal part. What if I'm doing all of the housework or whatever, and you're not doing that, but you bring half of the bill money? And if anybody that I'm dating or living with or married to send me a cash app for the electricity bill come in and it's $100, and you ask me for a cash app for 50, we might be at the courthouse on Monday or as soon as it opens.
Okay, I hear that. Do you think that has to do with the stage of life that you're currently in? One of the things that we talk about all the time, or I hear people talking about, is how women in general are not out earning men, right? They still fall behind men in terms of their earning. But when you look at Black men and Black women, there are more educated Black women with degrees. I don't have the numbers, your numbers, girl. I don't have the numbers to know whether they're out earning Black men right now. But you talked about that fiscal piece, right? It seems like when people talk about 50-50, for you, it's not just semantics. It's about value. It gets into much more than that. But I think when people are dating, and maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like what they're focused on is the fiscal piece. And I hear men say, well, if I get into this relationship, I'm expected to spend $300 on a first date. I'm expected to not just buy my meal and her meal, but her girls too. And if I can't do this and I can't do that, then I'm a sucker. I ain't good enough. And so I think men start having these conversations about, like, well, what do I get out of this? I take you out on 3 dates, I spend $900, and then you say, nah, you're not the person for me, and so when you think about that from a male perspective, what do you think the 50-50 debate is really all about? Is it just about money for a lot of people, or do you think it's something else?
Well, I think it's clearly about the level of equality that's in the workplace right now, that's in society. I think that we're probably at the first time in a very long time where men probably aren't viewing women as the total and complete prize, right? You had a moment in time where men are starting to see themselves with a certain level of value that probably wasn't there before. It used to be a level of status to have a woman by your side. If you were in middle school, to get the girl. You're in high school, you get the girl. In college, there was always a level of status attached to having a woman by your side. So now we're probably at a stage and point in time where that philosophy is starting to change. That ideology is starting to change. Now that's good, bad, or indifferent. I don't place any value on it on one way or another. It just is. And so now you have men coming to the situation and asking, hey, how do I benefit from this relationship? How do I value being here? What do you bring to me that increases my life? Especially since, the wage gap is a little bit different. It's a little misleading because women aren't necessarily making on par 75 cents to every man's dollar. Because if that was true, I own a business, I would just hire all women and pay 25, get a 25% cut. We can't do that, right? It's generally the reason why that happens is because women still aren't working certain jobs that pay more. Women aren't working on oil rigs, they aren't plumbers, they aren't electricians and mechanics. They aren't doing those jobs that typically pay more. Not that there aren't any women doing them, but typically they are not paying that type of money. So I think that's the difference now. We're seeing a shift in ideology, a shift in philosophy, a shift in how we're viewing things. And part and parcel, I'm just going to say it, part and parcel of it, a huge part of it is that women fiscally are earning the same as men. Men's value have typically been in the dollar that they've made. That has been where our value has lied. And so since now that thing is starting to equal out, now there's a certain level of equality across the board. Now we're saying, hey, that's no longer a value for me in terms of that because you make just as much as I do. So where are we finding this value at? So now we have to have a different conversation.
So I want to bring you back to something where you say about the women or having a woman in your life is not the status symbol that it used to be. It is still a proven fact that a man with a woman, a good woman in their life, live better and have less stress.
Oh, I agree with you completely. That part is absolutely true. But I'm talking about the perception as it's viewed by other men. You understand? Like back in the day, if I saw Edwin with a woman, that was like, yo, he must be doing something. He must have something. That implied his value. We're just talking about how we saw it as men. If Edwin got the cheerleader, Edwin must be playing football. Edwin must got a car. Edwin must be doing something. So I'm striving to get what he has so that I could get the girl. That mindset has shifted in terms of that particular thing. That's the piece that I'm talking about. I understand the value that, yes, as a man, if you are dedicated to the right woman, yes, you live longer, you make more money. All those things are absolutely true. I'm just looking at it from terms of the status piece of it, how people are viewing it. They don't view it the same way anymore. And so there's the shift, good, bad, or indifferent. That is the shift. That's where we at.
So what do people who are single, and I'm a shoot high and say from 30 and higher. Okay, not that I'm leaving my younger ones out of it at the moment, but those who have 30 years old and older, okay, they're single and they're saying, hey, I don't, because it's funny because I hear people say, well, I don't need nobody to go half with me. I don't need nobody to take care of me. I hear women say that all the time, but then I hear men saying all these women want me, it's for me to take care of them. Where is the disconnect? What's happening that we're having a disconnect? I bet if I ask right now on this broadcast, right, all these people wrote the word single, that they were single. And if I said to them, do you need somebody to go half? They were like, no, I don't need nobody to go half. I just need a partner, someone who's going to, support me and I support them. Why are all these people missing each other? What's going on in society that's causing them to miss each other? That's what I want to know.
I think communication is a big reason why we are missing each other when it comes to understanding this whole dating dynamic. We're not listening to each other. We're not understanding what the needs of each other are. I can say, even though I don't say it, I don't need someone necessarily to finance my lifestyle. I've been financing my lifestyle for a while. However, I do want a partner, as you mentioned, to come in and we figure out the rest of our days together on an equal playing field when it comes to what we're bringing to each other's life. We can figure out the financial piece of it as we move along, but I'm not necessarily, that's not my main focus when I'm in the dating, when I'm dating someone, of trying to figure out the financial piece of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that all of that is true. That plays a role in the part. But I think, again, we have to also look at where value inherently lies in the genders, because that's important. Again, I go back, our value as men generally lied in our ability to provide and protect. That's directly tied to money, fiscally being able to do so, because we're not going out killing bears anymore. So, right. So it's about the money piece. And so for women, their value lied in the ability, of course, to be able to provide a seed and air to take care of those soft things. And so now we have, we're still in a society where these things are starting to shift. And so how do we reconcile that shift? Where is the middle ground? How do we meet in order to kind of deal with that piece. And I think the conversations need to be stemmed around that particular piece. How do we meet each other? Like it was said, while we're missing each other, I think we're missing each other because there's a piece of us that's still trying to hold on to our mama and daddy's world, but also trying to live this new lifestyle, social media and things. So I think that's the distance. I don't know how to close the divide and per se, but I know it's there. I know that's where we are. And again, it's 50-year-olds, 40, 50-year-olds having a conversation. It is a little bit different than 30-year-olds. But I also need to understand, let's also deal with this other lie about, this money piece. We know that less than 15% of the population make between $100,000 and $149,000. So folks are not making this type of money that people are espousing to be. So the reality of it is we need each other anyway. We need each other anyway because times have changed. The fiscal responsibility we need to have for each other is just different. And so we need to also start with the facts. Let's talk about that piece for real. Most people are only making, especially in our community, $45,000, $50,000 a year. That's where we at. I think sometimes you can be confused by your circle because everybody in your circle might make six figures, but that's not the world that we live in. So let's start having some real conversations about that so we can stop, Facebook surfing and thinking everybody balling out.
So has social media warped that view? Because, look at, and Sabrina, you're a numbers person. You probably know these numbers better than both Chris or I know them. But the reality of it is that, a lot of people, men and women, men say, if I make six figures, then I want my woman to make six figures. Some men say that. Some women say, if I make six figures, then he got to make six figures. Some women say he need to make six figures even if I don't make six figures. So if everybody to make six figures, but the numbers don't bear that out, is that a problem in the dating world, or has social media done that to us, or what's happening here?
I do think that social media has put some type of unrealistic expectation on what people are bringing to the table, and the whole discussion about finances and what they're able to bring. When I look at, I did a search on the salary of a single person to live comfortably in the United States, based off of 99 of the largest metro areas in the United States. And it says that we should have at least 90K in order to live based upon rental prices and food prices and all that stuff. You would need at least 90K for a single person to live comfortably in the 99 metro areas within the United States. What that means, when I look at the statistics of what Black men and Black women are earning, it does not measure up to what it takes to live comfortably within the United States, which means that disconnect of what we're seeing on social media is it could be someone balling for the moment, or stunting for the gram, or whatever it is, but they're putting it out there like this is their norm, or this can be the norm, when it's not actually that, because the numbers don't bear out what they are actually saying and showing on social media. So I think that can be misleading as to what we are able to afford. Chris, what do you think? Because I think we kind of share a similar idea on this part of it.
And Chris, before you answer that, Chris, so Sabrina, following up with that, what advice would you give? I'm going to let you speak to the ladies, and I know all women are not monolithic. I get that. But based on those numbers, based on what you just shared, a woman who is looking to date and to find a life partner, if that's what their goal is, what would you tell them their expectations should be? How do we get expectations back in alignment then? Because I think expectations are out of alignment.
I would say look at your city. You could go do a simple Google search and look at what the average salary is. They'll break it down by race, age, education level. And then you can look at those things and then look at yourself. How am I in alignment to attract that thing in which I want?
Okay.
because I think sometimes we're a little bit off on, who we are, so, and what we bring to this imaginary table. Um, So do a Google. I mean, it's simple. Do a Google search. Get some information so that you can set your expectations properly for what your area. Now, if you're willing to expand if you're willing to expand your dating circle and pool and go on the internet and branch out, then maybe you can get what you're looking for. But if you're looking within your city, do that Google search so that you can see that maybe that's not available in your town. You're looking for the 100K person, and you're not is you don't have 100K.
So somebody said in the comments, well, I'm not going to lower my expectations. And I don't know. I don't think that it's about lowering expectations. I think it's about having real ones.
Yeah, it is. It's about having real, because here's the thing: the numbers speak for themselves. I can want a 6'4" model that they had a stretch mark for every kid and makes $800,000 a year. Like, I can want all of that, right? But the reality of it is, how many of them women actually exist? And out of the women that exist like that, why would she date me, right? Like, why would she be choosing me versus a sheik over there in Saudi Arabia, right? So I think that's a real thing. It's not about lowering expectations. It's about understanding what's there, what's actually in the marketplace to date. And that's just a real thing. It is not about, again, we need to get past what we have viewed in our mind as a normal thing, a normalcy, because the world is ever changing. Things are changing. It's not the 70s, it's not the 80s, it's not even the early 2000s anymore. And so these things are different and change. So again, the fiscal piece is what it is. You can research it any way you want to go. This is what people are making. This is where we are. But we have to also start to look at too, in terms of even where we're looking in terms of even our religious beliefs. Those things are ever changing. We got way more denominations now, way more churches now, way more people with different belief systems now. Information is free. And so you even have to kind of look at it from that perspective. You can want a man that's 6 feet tall, that makes six figures, that goes to church and prays and do all that. You can want all of that. That nobody's telling you to change any of that. But understand how many of those men actually truly exist. Where are these men at? And so that's the level we need to start having a conversation. And I know I'm talking about it from a woman's perspective, but it's even on the man's end, the same thing. How many of these 6 feet models that, cook and clean and can sing like this, like those, how many of these women actually exist? Right. And so it's about understanding these expectations. And that's why this table conversation comes in, because the vast majority of us, regardless of what we might think about ourselves, we fall in the margins of the paper. Right? Most of us fall within the margins of the paper. Very few of us on the outside, very few of us on the low end. We fall in the middle. So let's just talk about what that actually really means in terms of what we bring to the table. That's a real conversation, because we're more alike than we are different.
And someone put in the comment, and I've seen this comment float a couple different times, and it's a phrase that was made popular by the late Kevin Samuels. This idea of a high value man. Mm-hmm. So when either of you hear that term, a high value man, what does that mean to you? And what does that say about the fact that people are equating themselves, right, as a high value man, and what they want out of a relationship when they may theoretically not even be high value at all. So what is, because I think that's a piece of the relationship. We talk about value, right? I would like to think that most people value themselves. We've talked about expectations. Am I over expecting? I tell people all the time, when I met my wife, I knew I outkicked my coverage. And I was like, yo, listen, I done hit a home run. I'm good, but a lot of people like to think about this idea of, I'm a high value man, and therefore I don't want a 5. I don't want a woman who's a 6. And what do we get these values from anyway? Let's talk about this.
Now that's interesting because that term has been around for almost 40, 50 years. How about it? It was solely connected to income. It has morphed over time and it's turned into something completely different, whereby there's a merging of two ideas, where you have a section of women who are saying, hey, we want our men to be over 6 feet tall, make 6 figures, have a six pack, drive this, do this. Those are specified as high value men. And now you have those men who actually fall into that category are now at a place where they get to choose and pick around because you have an abundance of women defining it that way. So you have all of these women wanting the same type of man, right? And so I think it has gotten perverted over time, where that's actually happened. But I think the value, the definition of it has changed over time and it's become a little bit perverted right now.
I actually think that they have tied high value into high earning. And that's where the issue is, because the character of I'll put it this way. The worst dating relationship I had was with a high earner. It was the expectation, because I have money, the character was flawed. He needed his ego stroked every day. It was a whole lot of things that went along with it that made his character terrible. But yeah, he had the money. It was nothing for him to throw some money out there to solve a problem or to make whatever happen. But everything else about you is terrible. And it didn't equate to high value man. It just said you made money. And I believe that money is a byproduct of a successful product or service. So therefore, equating that to money is asinine to me. That's what you want high value to high value man to mean, is to tie it to some money.
But let's have a real conversation about it now. I need to punch back a little bit. I would agree with you that money does not equate to character, but most men aren't getting in the door to even learn about their character unless they got some money. So let's tackle it for what it is.
Okay, say more.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. The one thing that women are looking for, again, even at this day and age, is still protection and provide, right? And so that still is the key component of that right now is dealing with fiscal. And so you don't even get in the door unless you got this money, unless you're making a certain amount of money. And I think this is probably something that we can actually really talk about across the board, across age groups. And so the mindset needs to start to shift in terms of that. I'm not saying that somebody should be coming in making $5 an hour or $10 an hour. I'm not saying that, but you got to understand too that women are placing the value on that. And men typically will always fall in line with what would they have to do in order to catch the woman. And so if you're telling men that you got to make this amount of money, or we're only going to talk to men, before you get even in the door, you got to make this amount of money, then you're already starting this process that becomes more important. So you can't you'll go in the back door on it and say, well, that's not really that important. Well, it is important. It does have value because you're not even talking to them unless they have it. Now, this probably isn't true for everybody, but I think we could probably say in good confidence and good faith that yes, that's what's happening. We're talking about men making a certain amount of money before they can even get to the point where they can have a conversation with you.
Are we asking women to, now I want to use the word lower their expectation. Are we asking women to no longer have the belief system that a man should be the provider? Are we asking them to make the move to, we are partners in this? And if we make the move to, we are partners in this, how do we get men to move into more of the domesticated things that we know still don't happen in lots of relationships? Because if that doesn't happen, then we can call it 50-50, but it feels like 75-25 to somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think again, this all goes in line with the fiscal piece. They're running hand in hand with each other. As women become more active in the workforce, as women start to be able to earn the same amount of money, if not more, than men are, then the roles have to shift in terms of that. That means if she's spending more time away from the home and I'm spending more, then the delineation of responsibilities have to start to equal out across the board. So I am in agreement with that. If you're out and you're working 14, 15 hours in a hospital as a surgeon, then yeah, I should be cooking and cleaning and doing those things to make it up. But I think there's a shift, and we still need to try to come to the middle ground of what that looks like in terms of what it is. Now, there's a different conversation to be had in terms of if we are wanting men to still take on this provision and protection role and it's tied to economics. There's two different conversations to have with that. One being, yes, men can earn enough money for whereby their women can be at home. The rub is, are women willing to live under what their man can provide? That's one question. The other part of it is, where are we pressing our men to work? What jobs are they actually going into? We're at a space now where we're actually becoming competition with women. We are now competing with women in the workforce, where 40, 50 years ago we were not. And so that again speaks to another piece of it. How do we manage that particular part?
And so this is this idea of expectation versus reality, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things that people have asked me multiple times, I'm a married pastor, been married almost 30 years, but I have single people who are in my church. I have single people who I talk to. And the question that people keep asking is, how do I find someone who has the same expectations that I have? If everybody is, you and Sabrina are both in some ways agreeing, right? That if a woman's going to be working more, the man needs to be helping out more. But this is this expectation versus reality. When I talk to a lot of single women, a lot of single women are saying, I find men who want me as a woman to serve in this traditional role, but yet they want this new modern role when it comes to the fiscal piece. So how does a woman, and Sabrina, you may want to talk to this, how does a woman make sure that she doesn't get caught into living the traditional role, cook, clean, swinging from the chandelier, sexing him the way he needs to be sexed and all that other stuff, but then also being a surgeon and having to work 14 hours? Because that's what I hear from women. That's what I hear. I hear them saying, I don't want to be that person. Well, I have to be the new age when it comes to money, but you want me to be my grandma when it comes to everything else.
Oh, so I think that first women have to figure out first what they're willing, or not what they're willing, but what they are bringing to the table. And they need to have that open and honest conversation about what that looks like. And if they are not having that conversation, so there's a couple things that when I am dating someone that we're going to have a conversation about. We're going to talk about this.
Help the people out. Help them out.
We're going to talk about finances. We're going to talk about credit score. We are going to talk about, if, we can do some hypotheticals.
When do you talk about that, Sabrina? When do you talk about that? Because I've asked this question on Facebook before. When do you have that conversation?
So I feel like upfront and early, because if we are in this, well, I guess it depends upon age too. So let's put age in a factor. I am in my late 40s, about to approach 50. I need to know early on whether we're going to be at where we got to bridge this gap of where we at, and my expectations of what finances look like for you, what your credit score is. I'm not above a person in a rebuilding stage, because at this point in life, we possibly have either been married, been in a long-term relationship, and now we're starting over at this point if we're not already married. So I understand that there's some rebuilding of your table that you must have or might have, but I need to know, what does it look like for you? And I'm in the initial phases. Within them first 1 to 3 dates, We have talked about finances, because if you can tell me your sexual position that you like and I can know that early, I should be able to know about your finances, because there's no way you're going to tell. I was about to call out a sexual position, but there's no way you're going to tell me you want to reverse cowgirl on a handstand, but I can't ask you about what your credit score and your finances are. That crazy. But
well, it's funny because someone put in the comments, somebody put in the comment section that that's a sensitive subject. But I love how you brought that up. It may be a sensitive subject, but if we can talk about sexual positions and all this other kind of stuff, surely we ought to be able to talk about money.
Yeah, I mean, so I can talk about the men in my age group. We don't really care what women make. We care we care about if you're fiscally responsible. That's our major question. We don't want you to blow what we have. You know what I'm saying? So that's generally the conversation that we're having in terms of that particular thing. But we also have the conversation as this: if you're asking for a more traditional role, then again we go back to this table. How does it? What does you being in my life benefit me? If I'm paying 75% of the bills because that's what you require in order to feel protected and safe, and I'm not cheating and doing all these other things, what does it benefit me? What am I getting from this situation? Because let's just be real now. Sex don't have the value that it used to have 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Everybody's sexing. You can get it from anywhere. It's basically free. Or it costs you a Happy Meal and an extra sauce, right? So that's just the reality, right?
It's $40. That's the going price, right?
Yeah, all the time, $40.
So again, we need to have it. That's a real conversation. Again, it's still about that table. If this is what you want, what do I benefit from? This is where we're having this conversation now, because you can ask for this, but what am I getting in return? And women ought to be able to ask the same question. If I'm cooking and cleaning and sexing you, then what does it benefit me? Both people can ask this question. It's not relegated to one sex or the other.
Maybe, and that may be where we differ in dating relationships, because for a man, you might think that answer is easy and a woman is willing to answer that. But when I start having certain conversation with men, or when I was having certain conversations with men, that was not like freely given information for us to talk about it. Again, I can figure out the sexual aspect, but when we start talking about what's finances, what is your mindset on that, then the conversation goes, well, why we got to talk about that now? We can wait until later. I don't even know if I like you enough to do that. But you like me enough to sex me, but you don't like me enough to talk about finances and if we're going to be able to build something together, or whether we're wasting our time. You may get it because you are a man, but from a woman perspective, I'm not seeing it like that.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the disconnect that I hope people are hearing, because while I certainly can see it from a woman's perspective, I also have two sons, right? And when I talk to them and have conversations with them about, well, am I supposed to spend $150 on a first date because now going to the park is not a first date anymore? Now coffee's not a first date anymore. Going to the museum is not a first date anymore. It's about how much I spend. And so I think those are two conversations that we got to get both people on track. I absolutely agree. If a man can bring up a sexual position, he ought to be able to handle the conversation about his credit score and how much he got in savings. I think a lot of times men avoid that conversation, honestly, especially if they're a little older, is because they're embarrassed about where their current situation is. Because the truth of the matter, if you got an 820 credit score, you got a couple $100,000 in the bank, and you own a couple properties, and someone asks you that, you probably ready to pop that off just to let them know what you got. But if you got a 420 credit score, your car is one payment from being repossessed, and you live from a basement, you may not want to give that information out. And so I think that women have to be aware that, hey, this is kind of the information I'm looking for. But then to Chris's point, I don't think men have ever really asked the question before that they're asking now, which is, what do I get out of this? I've heard so many younger men. Now, when I say younger, I'm talking about dudes in their 20s and early 30s saying, even about marriage, like, why would I get married? If I get married and it don't go right, I lose half of everything I got. Why would I want to do that? And if I'm a high value man, I don't have to just pick one woman. I can tell this one woman that I'm with another woman. And because she values my high value, my earning, she cool with me having another one. Or even if she ain't cool with it, she ain't so upset she gonna leave. And so I think there's just so many dynamics out there in the dating pool that's just causing people to make some crazy, crazy decisions. But that's the reason I wanted to have this conversation, because I believe that what you say, Sabrina, is 100% correct. And Chris, I think what you say is 100% correct, in the sense that we've got these different expectations and a lack of communication, and just causing people to miss each other. Listen, we've been going an hour. I want to give each of you some parting words to say, and then I got some questions in the comment. We're just gonna do a Q&A real quick. And so those of you who have questions, I've been seeing your questions. I ain't ignored you, but I didn't want to interrupt our flow of conversation. So you can put your comment back up there. One of the questions I saw was, are y'all both single and trying to stay single? Or are y'all single and out there looking? Or are y'all done because y'all don't want none of the pee that's in the pool? That was one of the questions.
Don't go to one side. Like,
I can't
no, for me, I mean, I do desire to be cleaved to someone. I do, but I do think that I do have to understand that the conversation that I'm having with women in my age group is way different than probably the conversation that a lot of other people are having. So I don't want people to confuse how I see society is right now with my own personal views of it. You know what I'm saying? So how I view things and how I understand things from my own personal life is completely different than the society that we're living in and the change that we're coming to.
Thank you, sir.
You
can refuse to answer.
No, I want to say something about what you said first, and then I'll go back and answer that question. Okay. I think 100-airs and 1,000-airs all over the world is talking about losing half of their money. And when you break down, when you look at the statistics of what the net worth is of a Black man, the net worth of a Black woman, baby, you ain't losing a whole bunch if you went to divorce court tomorrow. You can make that up next week when you get in work and get your paycheck. But I tickled myself with that one. But because if you think about it, Jeff Bezos with Microsoft, they divorced, they remarried right after they divorced. They already had somebody else next in line to go ahead and take that thing. So money and going to divorce and having to give somebody half isn't the issue. That's not the problem. So I think some men look at what others are stroking checks for and equate that to what they have in their bank account, and that's not it. Now, if you do have money that you want to protect, you might want to look at having a prenup, having a post-nup, and things like that in place so that you can protect yourself if divorce actually happens. But if we real about the statistics of it, you'll rebound. You'll rebound.
But I think it's all relative. It's all relative now. What you have is the value of it relative to you.
Right.
And I get that it's relative,
you don't want to
but
devalue the 1,000-airs.
Right.
I'm not devaluing them. What I'm trying to say is that is not the basis of why you shouldn't get married or to marry someone. There are so many other benefits to marriage that exceeds the dollars. You can always make that money back. So
I think again that what you're saying is true, because it bears out that society is better as a whole with an intact, healthy, linear family. That the statistics bear that out. We can all agree upon that.
Right.
But I do also understand I can't devalue or discount people's personal experiences, either from what they've seen or what they've experienced themselves, and how they view that for their own lives, right? And I think that that's a real thing to really have a conversation about. And if we want to, if I really get off into it, if we're going to talk about equality, then we got to start at the family court system, but that's a whole nother story too. But I think I think that's a real thing. So these things are real things that are happening that have validity to them that we can't discount. Again, for me, I'm not about saying what something is right or wrong or what someone should do. I just think that we need to be informed about the world that we live in so that we can make different decisions, or at least we have an understanding of where people's fears are, where people's triggers are, where people's traumas are, how they're thinking and how they're viewing the world. Otherwise, that's the communication piece. If you don't know the perspective in which I'm coming from, you'll never be able to talk to me. We'll never be able to have a meeting of the minds.
So here's a question. I think it went back to something Sabrina said. One of the questions was, if I'm unable to meet people in my city who fit my standards, what advice would you give for me to go and meet those types of people? I think that's what they're asking. It's like, where do I go if I look at myself, because you talk about looking at yourself. If I look at myself and I say, this is me, and I'm not finding those people because maybe they're already married, right? Or something. What advice would you give a woman to go and, you said somebody expanding their horizon across the internet. So what they don't want to get catfished out here, but what would you tell them?
Travel. Travel, you move around. You also have the internet. There are dating apps where you can get to know people and get your feet a little wet in it. I don't necessarily ascribe to a whole bunch of dating apps, but there are. I've had friends that have met someone online and they've been married 20 years. So, and some people meet with a hi and in their inbox. But I think being open to traveling and moving around, not just your city, it could be a neighboring city. Put in some gas in your tank and drive down. I live in Virginia. Go to Virginia Beach, go other places so that you're able to meet people that may have a similar makeup to what you're looking for, and go on the internet and search for those places and see whether that bears out well for you.
I would say this. First and foremost, let's be realistic about what your expectations are. What are those things that you're valuing? What are those things that you're actually looking for? And if those things fall in line with probably the top 1% to 2% of the men in the world, then you're gonna have to ask yourself, what does that look like for you? Number one, let's just be realistic about it. Not whether or not you deserve a person, but whether or not you fit that person or would that person want you, right? And if you're not getting the desired outcomes that you're looking for, then we have to self-evaluate, which is the one thing that a lot of us have a hard time doing. Let me evaluate. If we do it in the workforce all the time, if we have desired outcomes that we don't meet, we don't say we need to change the outcomes. We say we need to change ourselves, right, in order to reach those outcomes. So I think it's again, to me, it always bears back to where these numbers are. What are these expectations? What is this list that you're looking for? And I will probably guarantee you that I don't know this person, but I probably can tell you what their list is. Just based upon some general things that I've heard. And I don't think there's some things that are outrageous. They probably are not. But what I would say is, it's probably a very small section of men that probably fit that category. And so again, you have to ask yourself that particular question. What is it that you're looking for? Where are you going to find it? And also be an understanding that probably your compadres probably want the same thing. All the single women in your age group want the same guy. They want the same situation. It's the same thing for us as men. It's no different for us. If everyone was single and came to me and said, hey, man, I can't find nobody, and I probably would say, hey, man, you might want to go to the barbershop. What's your money looking like? You might want to hit the gym. I would say that to him.
It's funny you say that, though, because one of the comments that came up, and I didn't get one of the comments that was mentioned, and Sabrina, maybe you could talk to these. You got girlfriends and different things. The comment basically made a reference to the fact that men, and I assume they were talking about black men, have a wider pool because they date outside their race more. What y'all think about that? Is that true? When it comes to dating in general, we know that there's about the same number of men and women across the globe to some degree, is that a thing that maybe African American women should think about? If they say, I can't find anybody, they typically are talking about, I can't find a black man. Black men do tend to date across the gamut of races. Does that have to do with it? I don't know.
Well, 85% of black men still marry black women. So we're still dating and marrying black women. 15%.
Y'all numbers, people, what is that for black women?
Well, that I couldn't give you that part. That part I don't know. But I do know, just looking at it, I can make a pretty educated guess. Especially if I start from the 70s. Women, the birth rate for women outnumbers men, right? So there's always probably going to be more women than men. So all women are not going to find a mate. That's just how the numbers bear out. So because of that, I would say that you love who you love. Find who you can find to love. Whatever that person looks like, date that person, find that person. Because the reality of it is, the statistics bear out, you might not find a black man that's out there. You might not find that person. That black man does not exist. Probably just from a numbers perspective, he doesn't exist.
Or he may exist in a place where you don't want to date him. He may be incarcerated.
Right. Or maybe on the low end.
A whole nother thing about the number of people. Yeah.
Right. Or maybe he's Muslim or Islam and you're a Christian, or maybe he's a lot of different things that don't line up with what you want.
So, do you want me to add you to this part? Do you want somebody's in the studio ask, do you want to be added to this part or no? Yes or no?
Add me. Tag me in.
What's good?
Tag me in. What's up? My brother, my sister.
What's up, sis?
I got a strong position about this because Chris is right that for the majority, black men are still marrying black women predominantly. But Chris is also right that there are more black women available than black men. Mm-hmm. So I believe, no offense, black men, that black women tend to have a loyalty to black men that the 15% that's available do not have to black women. And as a result, those black women are waiting to be picked by someone who does not prefer them. And I would like black women to be more open that love may not be your skin color. And that does not mean that you are not pro-black and for black people and all of that stuff. But I'm a firm believer that you can't make somebody want you who don't. And I do think that we have seen for the eligible people dating that there is a loyalty black women have that black men have not demonstrated they have for the eligibility of people dating, Chris, because I don't want no smoke with you tonight. For the eligibility of people dating, that black men don't have the same loyalty, and I wish that black women would get out there and find them some love.
Because the love who you love. It's kind of what he said. He said, "Love who you love."
Yeah, I said, "Love who you love." I don't know that it's even a piece of loyalty that actually. I think the word loyalty speaks to some other things. I just think that black men are probably more open to move around. I don't know that it's a loyalty part to it. I think black men are just more likely to move around. I also believe this too. In that 15%, we have to also account for. And let's just be real about us as black people, right? When we get to a certain place in life, we generally move out of the hood. We generally place our kids in places that are probably more diverse. And so there's a subject of us that actually marry or date who we associate with, who we're close to. And so the more further we move away from that, that's another piece, which is like a lot of athletes, they end up at these PWIs and they end up dating the white girls. It's not as if they have an aversion to black women. It's just it's by association. You date who you're next to. You marry who you are around.
I agree. I agree, and to an extent with it. And I do think that people should, if that is their preference, expand their dating pool. If you have a problem with being single then you need to expand, because dating is a numbers thing. If you want to get there, then you need to expand your numbers in order to get to where you're looking for. I know for me, it wasn't, I did not necessarily, I wanted a black man, but I also know that had I been open to other races at the time, that I probably would have not been dating for as long as I have been.
That's
So
fair.
again,
That's fair.
to Sabrina's point, right? So Chris, you say it's not a loyalty, but this is the thing that I'm saying. I hear, because I do live in a predominantly white area, and I did go to a PWI, and I hear black men say all the time that they are open to other women. And I hear black women say exactly what Sabrina said. I wanted a black man. And because I wanted a black man, even if a black man didn't want me, I overlooked someone who potentially would have loved me well because they were not black. I wasn't even open. And I'm just saying, I think black women ought to be more open.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I think you love who you love. You find what you find. Now the other piece of it too is let's also throw that into the fact, though, Sean, that when you pigeonhole what you decide you want, then you kind of section yourself off too. So these percentage of black women who are actually wanting or loyal to black men, which black men are they actually loyal to? Who are they actually competing for? All of these, there's not one straight answer. There's a lot of different answers in connection to that. Because again, I still always fall back to just from a very anthropological perspective, right? From the very basic level, women are going to be attracted to men who have the ability to protect them. I hate to use the word alpha, but I think we know what we're talking about. If you're looking from Angela, the strong jawline, right? The ability to go out and kill the bear or slay the lion, right? The women have always been attracted to the athlete, to the guy with the sports car. It's nothing wrong with that. It's very basic. It's nature versus nurture, right? It is what it is. It's embedded in who we are as people, right? And so I think that also plays a role into it too. When you have this certain percentage of black women who want all the same men, you're all vying for the same man. Everybody wants the quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants the baseball star, the track star. So these things are just realistic. They play a part in all of it. I agree with you saying, son. That plays a role, but I think it's more than just that. It's a lot of things that play a role in that.
Yeah, we don't fight publicly. We go have all our fights in the inbox, right? That's what we don't fight publicly. I just wish that for the women who want to be loved, if you are 50 years old and you have not been dating in the last 10 years because your attention is turned to black men and black men's attention is not turned to you, if you don't want to spend the next 10 years, particularly going in the same situation, you may want to go to some spaces where some other men appreciate the beauty that is you.
So are you implying that black men don't appreciate the beauty that is black women? I had the food closer to the table what I said there, because
I love that we could move closer to the table. Listen, I've been loved well by a black man. I'm here to research right now and pull up the stats where I guarantee you will find more black men who say they don't fool with black women than you will find black women who say they don't fool with black men. Because black men often appreciate the hardness it took for their mama to raise them, but they do not appreciate it when they see it in a woman that they are dating. So now we can have a part two of this because I came in at the end.
We can have a part two. I do think that and I'm only speaking from a male perspective, and I know all men are not monolithic. I keep saying it because I don't want somebody to say, well, that ain't me. But I do believe that one of the things that men, especially as they get older, seek out more than anything is this level of whatever they call it, peace. However peace is achieved for them. And for a lot of men, that peace doesn't have to be in a skin color. And if I find peace with an Indian, whether she's Native American or from across the ocean, if I find peace with someone from the Asian culture, if she's a Pacific Islander, if I find it with a black woman, a mixed woman, someone from Mexico, for a man, that external thing doesn't matter so much. I'm not saying men aren't attracted to women. I think attractiveness is important for everybody. Before you get to know my character, you have to at least think that I'm somewhat attractive to even go out with you.
Right.
I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about that I do believe that men as a whole, and yes, black men, if they can find peace, whatever their peace is, they don't care how it's wrapped as much as I think sometimes black women care. Now the men in the comment sections are saying they agree with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's true.
Yeah, so that's why I said I don't think it's a matter of loyalty per se. I think it's a matter of that what you just spoke of. If wherever the water is, I'm gonna go find it to drink. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what color the pot is that is in or the glass in is in. If it's good water, I'm gonna drink it. And so I don't think it's a matter of loyalty. I think it's that, just what you said, a matter of that part.
So somebody said, Sean, why are you looking like
that? Let Sabrina answer.
So here's my ask.
My comment back.
Okay.
So here's my ask: when you find whatever it is, or whomever find whatever they want to find where it provides them the peace, in order to do that, you don't have to put down all black women in the process. And that's where I become frustrated at, because you see the internet is full of it. We can see it every time. I see it if you see a celebrity marry someone outside, a black celebrity marry someone outside of their race, they go, that's right, bro, dap it up, because black women are. And I get tired of that narrative of black women become something else just because someone decides to date outside of their race. Love who you want to love, be with who you want to be with, whatever your preference is. However, don't put black women down in the process of trying to uplift this thing that you think that brings you so much peace. Have it. But don't tear us down in the process, because all black women aren't that thing that you're running away from.
So again, I think social media to me is not even a real place. I'm just being honest. I don't even view social media as a real place. I think it's click culture. And so whatever gets filled in the algorithm is generally what gets popped up over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I believe that there is a percentage of black men that despise black women? Yes, absolutely true. For whatever reason, I think those percentage of men exist. Do I think it's a majority of black men that feel that way? Absolutely not. Do I think it's even over 5% of black men that believe that? Absolutely not. Just like I know that this is a small percentage of black men who are deadbeat fathers. It's a small percentage of black women who are gold diggers. So I think we can get fooled by the algorithm, because the negative energy generally is what gets clicked. That's generally what pops up over and over and over again. It can make us believe that there's the overriding narrative, which I don't believe it. I don't believe it's true. That there probably are. Don't get me wrong. There are a percentage of men black men that feel that way. I just don't think it's. I'll go out on a limb here because I don't have the numbers, but I don't think it's more than 2% that had that mindset. I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough that it comes out to be that this is an overwhelming narrative or theme.
I don't know the number, but I do know that the fact that there are some is problematic. The fact
that's absolutely true. The fact that there is some is problematic. Just, that's with anything. Any one bad thing is one bad thing too many. Absolutely. But I don't think it is a narrative that actually is the majority of how people are thinking. I think there's a small segment of us that probably had in mind. And you ain't better talk to them no way. You ain't better say nothing to them no way. So there's nothing you can do about that group of people, because they're probably built with some degree of trauma. Maybe they didn't have a good relationship with their mama, their first girlfriend they broke their heart, and so they're all black. So you don't know where that lies. You don't know where that piece sits. You know what I'm saying? And so that again, I don't like to hear it. I don't like to see it. But as a black man that does not feel that way, and I think I can speak for a lot of black men, a lot of us don't feel that way. We don't coincide with that. We don't agree with that. That's not how we view Black women at all. But if I come on, I said, if I put a post on Facebook today and I said Black women are the most beautiful creatures in the world, I would get 2 likes and 1 comment.
Yeah.
If I said all Black women are gold diggers and got bad attitudes and masculine, I'd have 8,000 comments and 14,000 angry faces. That's just how the algorithm in Facebook and social media is set up.
Okay, so can I offer this? So I'd like to offer that maybe you think the percentage is smaller because you wouldn't hang with men who did that. Mm-hmm. Because exactly. If you sit and talk to women are telling you what Black men are saying. So even if you're saying it's just social media, well, I have a friend who just got a divorce last year. She literally called me. She's been on like 15 days. She's like, listen, sis, I'm starting to think Black men hate Black women. She said it wasn't like this when I got married. So I think that part of the issue may be here is that I know I'm blessed. You know, I not only feel like I have a good husband, I feel like I got great men in my life who protect, who do all of those things. But I think it's imperative that we listen to Black women when Black women are saying, maybe you have created a world, Chris and Strick, where you wouldn't be around a man who felt that way about Black women. But Black women are telling you that is their experience when they are going on not 1 date, not 1 out of 5 dates. They're telling you that's their experience if they go on 4 or 5 dates, that they're having that language right there.
So let me ask you a question then. Let me ask this. I'll never debate someone's lived experience. I can't debate someone's lived experience. Mm-hmm. But here is the question that I would ask Black men, Black women, in terms of this. What is it that you will require me to do as a Black man that does not feel that way to either combat or speak out or do? What would you require of us to do in reference to that?
So I think you already do it. I think Edwin already does it. I just think we need more men doing it. We need more Black men saying that's not the real narrative, right? But I do think that because we hang with who we're like, I do think maybe you're a little oblivious to how many of you exist.
No, I'm not. No, I don't doubt.
You say 2%, Chris. If you say 2%.
No, I don't doubt that these ideologies exist. I don't doubt that. I would just press back against the numbers, right? But I would never press back against someone's lived experience. So when again, if you go to, if one woman was essayed, that's one woman too many, right? Even if that was the only one for the entire year, I understand that perspective. I'm just saying that again, the what is it specifically? Because when I present it to you is I can make a post today that says this is not how we move, this is not what happened. So how does that narrative get spread? Because that's not what gets traction. What gets traction from women is these negative comments. What gets traction from people is these negative perspectives. So what we water actually grows. And so there's not enough watering of the positive viewpoints. There's not enough watering of the positive perspectives to outweigh or overshadow. Not that you're ever going to get rid of them. You're not, because people are going to think what they think and believe what they believe and move how they move. But if we're trying to change what the algorithm shows, we need to water the positive a little bit more. That's all I'm saying. Because I can specifically say going on Facebook now, I know what gets water and what doesn't.
So Sean, here was a question. You mentioned that you had talked to some Black women and they said they don't think that Black men like them. The question was, what makes a Black woman feel that way if they are on a date with them? If they're out with a Black man, what are the Black men doing? Did they communicate that to you, what they were doing, and made them think that Black men didn't like them if they was on a date with them?
Well, I think Sabrina may be tap in and give more, because my if we were in a court of law, my stuff would be hearsay. But if you actually say to a Black woman that the reason she is alone is because she's strong, because she owns a house, because she makes too much money, because she doesn't know her place, she's not as gentle and kind and tender as a white woman, then I don't know what you would expect a Black woman to take from that communication, except that you're not saying you don't like Sean because Sean has an aggressive personality or Sean is this. you're saying that's what's wrong with Black women. I don't know what else you would expect a Black woman to deduce from that.
Yeah, I think, and I go back to what I said earlier. I know that women, Black women, other women, whatever, are not monolithic. Same thing with men, right? We're not monolithic. So I know that sometimes we like to grab hold to these generalizations. And I'm not saying they're not true. As I said, one too many. If you got one woman who's a gold digger, that's one too many. You got one man who is hating on Black women because he's weak and infantile, because she done something positive with our life, that's one too many, right? But I think we do have to be careful when we talk about people who are dating, that we don't take these expectations. And so that and what I mean is, if I go into a date with the mindset that Black men don't like Black women, but I go out with this Black man, I can construe whatever he says to fit my narrative. And that can be vice versa. You know, if I think all women just want my money, and then now because I got to pay $50 for a dinner, I think she want all my money, as Sabrina said, that I could make back tomorrow on my job, then I think that's problematic. And I think that's what part of this dating issue is that people are going in with these wrong expectations. At least that's how I see it. I ain't out there dating. But that's
so I think it's right that people can go in with wrong expectations. But I don't feel like y'all hearing me. If a Black man looks you in your face and says, you're too intimidating, you think you're better than me, this is why Black women don't have anybody. Nobody's projecting your words. That's what you said. And I get it, because right. I know it's so foreign for y'all, because y'all don't act that way. So in y'all mind, y'all like, this got to be made up. This has got to be dudes.
No, we're not saying that.
It's not made up. It's how that individual feels. I get that.
No, I'm telling you, I'm talking about women who just come in the dating game, not women who've been here 10 years, who are saying the same thing that somebody who's been dating 10 years is saying that Black men are saying to them.
Okay, so let me ask you this again, because it's still a couple of things that I'm asking. Like, I'm asking as an ally in this moment, because this is a real question. Number one, how is it that I am to take accountability for what these men believe and say? Because I'm not saying they didn't say it. I believe 1,000% that these men are saying this to these women, right? It's accurate. I won't deny anyone's lived experience. It's true. It happened. Can we put that on the record? You know, entered into evidence, accepted, right? So what I'm asking, number one, what do I need to do? Number one, as a man who doesn't believe that, you've already answered that question. I've given my rebuttal for that. And number two, why is it that I need to be able to take accountability for what these men believe?
Okay, I don't want you to take accountability, and then I'm about to give it to Sabrina. I don't want you to take I don't want you to take accountability, but I would like both of you to go back and listen to this segment. Two men who I know love Black women, and the minimization that you both did. I'd like you to back it up and listen to it. I don't think you're hearing Black women when they're telling you that. You're not accountable, but you at least have to be accountable for actually hearing. Tag, Sabrina, you in. You got to be accountable for hearing. You're in, Sabrina.
So you talked about, the question was about being on a date with someone, and they are saying now they don't like Black women, or however the question was phrased. When you get to that date, so attraction, you can be attracted to someone, and then you get on a date and you're starting to ask these questions about, you know, whatever the experience is, what you're looking for, and then you start hearing what they're saying while you're on this date. You're like, hey, wait a minute, these questions are harmful. They are, you starting to pigeonhole women into, or Black women into, a certain thing because of a past experience that you have. So you're sitting there on this date and they're saying, oh, because you lean in, then you're aggressive. My lean in could be me trying to hear and understand you, so that I'm listening to you so that I can understand you. But then now it's, your movement is masculine, if you can string your subjects and your verbs together, then that must mean you don't like a certain type of man. Why you been single for so long? You start hearing these things while you're on the date. You're like, why are you here? Do you even like me? So you start out with the attraction that brings you to the date, but then when you get on the date, you start seeing that this person may not even like part of who you are. So then you either end the date right, go to the bathroom and say, check please, or something like that, so that you can leave, because now you're seeing that this ain't where it's at. This is not what I want. And I shouldn't have to continuously defend myself and who I am in this date because you have a slanted view of Black women.
One, LaCheryl just said in the comment that when a man feels intimidated and doesn't agree with you, it turns into insults. One of my girlfriends said that she was on a date and she disagreed about a man, and he began to say, that's why you single and that's why don't nobody want you. Okay, I don't know what else you would think that a woman would feel from that. If that's the language that we can't disagree without you attacking that I'm single. Aren't you single too? What's happening here?
I think
my only question to that, and I'm not trying to minimize it, but you can call it that. My only question would be, did that guy say that because that was a Black woman, or did that guy say that because he's a jerk? Because if a man says that to a woman, I don't think he's saying it because it's just a Black woman. I think any man who would say to a woman who disagrees with him about any subject that he would resort to name calling has to do with his low level of character rather than just the fact that it's a Black woman. I'm not saying Black women can't feel that because a Black man said it. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that if a man says that to a woman, or I'm asking the question, do you believe he said that because she was a Black woman, or do you believe he said that because of who he is as a low quality person?
I think Black women are assigned things based off of their emotions all the time. Like, I can't be passionate. I have to be angry. So when we're talking to it, when you start hearing those adjectives that are given to you, you know that it's mostly tied to the negative stereotypes that are given to Black women.
Okay.
And also, we can't discount the fact that when we say things to each other, they carry a lot more weight. I'm definitely willing to admit that. Maybe I shouldn't say this on. Let me just say it this way: if one of the others said something to me, it probably would take on a completely different meaning. I probably wouldn't internalize it as much as I would if, say, Sean or Sabrina said it to me. That's true. So I can see the reverse side of it. So I understand why it carries the amount of emotion and weight in it in terms of how you're saying it. I get that piece. I understand that completely. And to be honest, in this moment, I don't know how many more different words that Edwin and I could use to show that we have a little bit more compassion and understand what you're saying. I don't know what else we could say, but you know what I'm saying. But I do.
Hey, I started being quiet.
Yeah, I don't know how many more.
I gotta go to the house after this.
Right,
I got home to go to.
You at home?
No.
Yeah. So we get that, and I understand that, and I think even if I wanted to create the equivalent argument, I could do the same thing. I could say some of the same words, some of the same things that I've heard from Black women about us. I could do that same thing. And so I think we need to have a conversation of the why. Like, how did we get to the place outside of the 1% of people who probably just jerks regardless of whatever, right? But if it is a narrative that's being created that is becoming problematic to this space where we're actually moving the needle in terms of our culture and how we move and beyond and act each other, why? Why are we here? What got us to this space? Because you're not going to be able to change it unless we understand how we got here. I would assume that when I was younger, there probably were Black men saying some very bad things to Black women and vice versa. I don't think it's a new thing. We just got social media now, so it's exponential. It gets out there faster and quicker. But how do we get to the space where now it feels like it's normal? How we get here? How we change it? How do we move the needle? That is the real conversation. Because some of these people that where they at, they're gonna be where they at until maybe Gabriel comes down and says something to them. They're gonna be who they are. So how do we deal with the other part of
And that
I
may
don't know.
be
One of the guys asked. He said, "Well, he said one of the guys said in the comments. I don't know his name. He said he don't believe that, so he want to know where to meet the women because it was a guy in the comments who said that earlier, right?
you said what?
He was like he don't believe he like black women. He ain't got nothing against them, and he just want to know where he can meet some smart black women. That was his comment, so he wanted to be clear. I just think this thing. I think that systematically, and we know this systematically since slavery, there has been an intentional impact to put us against each other, right? And I think the difference is that maybe there was a period of time where, as a community, we saw the need to work together because if we didn't work together, we were going to all be destroyed, right? And I think that maybe we have shifted from that in some way because, as you said, we make more money, we move out of communities, we're around more, around more people not like us, and we don't understand. If you just compare and you do the research, which I'm sure you all have, the systematic way that black men and black women have been pitted against each other. And so black men and black women have to wake up and say, I may not prefer you, but I won't allow the whiteness of America to make me despise you, despise myself, and we tear each other down, which I think goes to Sabrina's point. Love who you love, but do you have to tear me down?
Nope.
Yeah, right. But I also think that
we ain't got no.
Yeah, but we're living in a different world. You know, as black folks, we don't live in the same world as white people. And so I think probably trying to measure each other, measure ourselves based upon the standard that they measure themselves at is already problematic too. And it goes back to the economic piece because we know what the numbers bear out, right? So we it's more incentive for us to work together cooperatively than anybody else. So we shouldn't even be having the 50-50 conversation or a table conversation because it should be what we should be bringing everything we have to bear to these situations. There should be nothing that we're holding back because we don't have the privilege or the opportunity of saying, okay, I can pass on this particular thing to this person. And it's a bunch of us being housewives and you don't have to do it. We aren't bred in a space that we could do that. We need to be having different conversations with each other that aren't fueled by other things. We have to create a whole different social consciousness for ourselves in this space and time. We need to bring everything we have to bear collectively, every single dime, every single piece of intellectual property, every single piece of physical property. That's what we need to be in order to kill this whole conversation.
I agree.
So our conversation needs to be 100-100, not 50-50.
No, that we all, I mean, but if you think about it, here's an interesting point. Strick and I have been married almost 30 years. Caleb is getting his doctorate in sociology. And he sent me a message the other day and he was talking about how basically what we've been able to do in 30 years in the way that we've jumped socioeconomic status. And he was, because they were having a discussion in class about class and socioeconomic status, right? But we were able to do that because we worked together. We brought everything that we had together. It ain't never been no mine, his, it's ours, right? And I think Chris is right. I think you just got to find somebody who's willing to bring all in with you so you can build something.
But let me tell you from a social, and everyone we were talking about this the other day, black men were the most successful 7 to 15 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And the reason being is because we were all the skilled workers were us. Reason why you could have places like Tulsa and those things, because we were all the only one of skilled workers. But what happened is our fathers, got to the point where they said, hey, you know what? You're not going to do this backbreaking work. You need to go to college and you need to get into these white spaces, right? And so then we started going to get our degrees and we started competing with the white man in these white spaces. Ergo come the 70s. And now you have this influx of black women who are getting into the workforce, who are not competing, who are now also competing for these jobs in these particular spaces, right? So we became competition in the workforce. We did. The issue is that if you look at the job market, if say you have 140 million people who are eligible to work, that means 16 and above, excluding the military. about 70 million of those people actually work. There's always been a surplus of jobs as it relates to people who are eligible to work. But the jobs that are missing are solar panel installers, electricians, plumbers, tactile jobs that generally pay more. And so the issue is for us in this space is that we need to stop really competing with you all in the workplace. And we really need to start doing things that actually where the money is. We need to start pressing our sons to go into these jobs that actually pay more and get back into these skilled workers. So these are things that are real things that are happening that we need to actually have real legitimate conversations about. Because I know my son is in college right now, and I don't know what he finna get his degree in, be honest with you, but I already know he's finna get in the workforce and be competing against Black women in the workforce. I already know, because we don't teach, and I didn't, be honest with you, I didn't teach them to bend iron or do plumbing or electrician. I didn't teach them those things because my father was an intellect and an academic, so he pressed that to me. So I think that these are also real conversations that are based in fact, that in order to curb this level of competition, and that's why I think this 50-50 thing and table thing has come about, because we're competing against you all in the workforce. It's a competition. It's not right or wrong, it just is. And so whenever you create an environment of competition, you're going to create a degree of resentment. There's going to be a divide when I'm competing. And so we need to stop competing. And in essence, I hate to use this word, but it's we need to really just allow y'all to have them jobs. Let you have them jobs. Do them. We'll do the things that create infrastructure. We'll do the things that create the ability for us to continue to work with him. Because you're going to always, AI can't replace streets and sanitation. AI can't replace a plumber, can't replace electrician, can't replace working on an oil rig, can't replace a lot of these things. And so this is the move we need to start to go to and start pressing our sons into these areas so that they can actually be these providers and protections and provision and not compete against our women in the workforce. Because it's an amazing thing that y'all can be surgeons now and doctors and CEOs and things of that nature, but it's competition now.
Listen, the brothers done tapped out on you on that. They ain't trying to go no oil rig.
That's what I was about to say.
It was amen and they done tapped out. They done started launching.
But here's the thing: even if you're doing the work that's skilled, there's still skilled jobs. And then what you do after that is once you kind of get that skilled job, now go start you a business.
Yeah.
Because now you got the level of skill you need. Now you can go get you 5 or 6 electricians, and now you're gonna have Smith's Electrician and Sons and do that nature. But in order for us to stop again competing with each other, and then the workforce the way it's set up, and let's just be real about it. If I hire a Black woman, I get to count you twice. I'm just talking from a very business perspective. It's not right or wrong. It just is.
We're gonna end with this question because I think this gets back to what we were talking about. It says, if she is the CEO, would she want the plumber?
She should.
She should. I mean,
she should.
Plumber is a good guy and she's smart. Yeah, she absolutely should.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if she's a CEO, she can take that plumber and make a worldwide business over there. I mean, if she that good, the truth of it is that women are anointed to bring the best out of men. So maybe he is just an electrician, right? But if y'all in partnership, as Chris said, 100% in, then what could we build together?
Yeah.
Right. You should.
Right. I agree.
And I gotta say to old boy in the comments, the reason we're not talking about bisexuality is because we pastors, we Christians, that's not the spin that we believe. Now, there are probably some places that you could have that, but we don't believe that we got to be out here doing things against God in order to get somebody. Okay, so I just important because you must not know us or you wouldn't have asked that. We welcome you here, but that ain't what we do around these parts.
I wasn't gonna touch it.
I didn't see it. Listen, first of all, Chris, Sabrina, thank you.
I'm leaving. Thank y'all.
All right, we'll argue in the comments later on.
Yeah.
Listen, I appreciate you both for being here. Listeners, I appreciate y'all for hanging up. We went way longer than we expected. We had almost at 2 hours. So I appreciate y'all time. Listen, people who are out there, let me just say this one more time. We were being sponsored tonight by the Wholeness Path. Again, the Wholeness Path is a transformative 6-month self-development program specifically designed for women. If you are being plagued by past dating mistakes, if you feel like you can't trust, you can't get over it, you're too guarded, you may want to take a look at the Wholeness Path. They have a new cohort that is starting in June. You need to reach out to the Wholeness Path CEO. That program is guided by Tenetria Williams. You can message her on Facebook. She can give you more information. It's about providing effective strategies to help you find healing and love. And so if you are one of those people who are single, you're female, and you want to find love, you still believe in love, but you know you have some issues that are maybe holding you back, reach out to Tenetria Williams. She is a licensed professional counselor. She's got a program that she's doing. People have already been through it. People have started dating after it and finding love. And so remember, beautiful love awaits you, but you have to take the first step. All right. Listen, Chris, I appreciate you. Sabrina, I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody who was listening. If you have comments for them, you can put them in the comment section. And if they're really good, I'll send it to them in our chat, and we'll see whether or not I send you an answer back or not. But I appreciate both of you guys for being here. Thank you so much, and you have a blessed night. Thank you so much. I'm going to give you guys parting words before you go. Any parting words?
I say be real with what your expectations are while you're out here dating. Make sure you do a great self-assessment of yourself and what you bring to this imaginary table so that you're not setting yourself up for failure in the dating arena while you're out here looking for love. So just make sure that you know you.
There you go. Make sure, I love that. Make sure you know you. Chris, parting words.
Yeah, I think that we just need to start changing the conversation. Stop creating this environment whereby we're competing with each other. That we understand the society in which we live in and the roles in which we have to play are just a little bit different now. And I think once we can kind of have those conversations without it being you're right and I'm wrong, or vice versa, and we're just trying to understand the perspectives of being together, I think we'll be in a better place.
And I'll leave by saying what both of them said. Date in your zone of proximity. In other words, know thyself.
Right.
Date within you. All right. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all so much. Y'all have a good night.
All right. Take care.
Good night.